I'm on Roadkill Garage, back in action with the supercharged Jeep. Get it!
So this is the 1975 Jeep CJ5, and it all began when the guys from Dirt Every Day challenged us to have a friendly competition. They just said, bring whatever Jeep you want, and the Jeep that I wanted was anything with a supercharger on it. I always had this cartoony vision of a little squat Jeep with a big blower on it, and so that's what we built on an episode of Roadkill Garage, along with my friend Rick Payway. So after that, we went and did the competition with Dave and Fred from Dirt Every Day, and it was a lot of fun. As a matter of fact, I'm surprised those guys didn't kill themselves, almost knocking that Jeep over on its side in a mud pit. And it was embarrassing because I was stuck in low range and they nearly beat me because I couldn't go fast enough. And so I needed a comeback. So we did an episode of Roadkill Garage where I did a shootout with Dulcich in the off-road Challenger and me in the BJ5. We did mud drags over on his property, and ever since then it's just been sitting because I did break the transfer case output and the drive shaft and a few other things that we're going to fix in this episode. And then hopefully we can be simpatico, mano a mano, actually riding in the same vehicle at the sand dunes. Are you down?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, should we take the hood off?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, there's going to be rats and spiders. I'm prepared for it. Oh, look at that. I'm glad I tarped this thing.
I tarped it.
I'm glad you tarped this thing.
Okay.
Oh, wow. You actually tucked it in there pretty good.
Yeah.
Here, grab it.
I didn't want your 350 to get ruined.
I think maybe step one is going to be the traditional pressure wash on this thing because it's got more spider webs and rat poop than I anticipated.
Really?
Yeah.
We'll get a chain and a tow vehicle.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Someone seriously needs to call in a napalm strike for all these gnats. It is so bad.
Windshield.
Why are you telling me what to do?
I don't want you to miss the spot. That feels pretty good.
I think it cleaned up pretty good.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, better than I thought. You want to fire it up for motivation?
I want to see if it runs as good as it looks.
I'm going to have to hotwire it here, so give me a second. Ignition on.
I bet you there's no gas in it. It's been cooking for like a year.
Yeah.
Actually, longer than that. There's nothing coming out. I'm checking fuel.
Does it have a mechanical fuel pump?
Yes.
Okay, let's give it some more.
Okay.
No gas?
I'm sure it all evaporated out.
Pour it in.
Okay.
I will hotwire once again. Oh, that's going to be a nice fire.
Don't backfire it, and it'll be fine.
All right. Basically, the fuel pump should have picked up gas by now, and it hasn't.
You would think it should have, yeah.
Yeah. Do we have a rat-eating fuel line so that it's got no suck?
I don't think so.
We got a problem. We need to look into it.
I'm going to commence a complete inspection of the fuel system.
Hey, Steve, there's a hole in the fuel line up here where the rat ate through it right next to the filter.
How do you know it wasn't a squirrel?
It could have been a squirrel, but see how my fingers are wet? That's a clue.
Why do you have an electric fuel pump mounted on the frame rail and plumbed into the fuel system?
Secondary backup? I don't know.
In case of squirrel?
I have no idea. So we fixed that little hose leak. Ready? Okay, that's way better than expected.
Yeah, fixed.
The blown 383 runs mint. No rat-eaten wires or anything like that, so that's good. But while troubleshooting it to make it run, I discovered we need a gas cap, the whole fuel system is garbage, and the throttle linkage won't go to wide open. And fixing that will probably be detrimental to the health of my axle shaft, but you can't have medium open throttle. It just doesn't work that way on roadkill. However, the first thing that I'm gonna do right now is get under the Jeep and remove that output shaft from the back of the transfer case that actually broke, so I can look at it and see if there's any spline counts or gear counts or anything that I need to know in order to get a new one. Now we get to look at some of the carnage I created in that episode of Roadkill Garage where I raced Dulcich in the Challenger, and at the end of the drag race, I just chucked the drive shaft out of this thing. It scattered everywhere, but it also broke some junk. So let's go through the drivetrain a little bit on this. As you know, I've got the supercharged 383. The transmission is an SM420 old truck transmission. It's a 4-speed with a granny low. It's awesome. It has an advanced adapters adapter that is connecting to the stock Jeep Dana 20 transfer case, and we've got an original Jeep Dana 44 rear end. Now the carnage begins right here, where the output shaft on the Dana 20 broke, which let that drive shaft just fling around everywhere, beat up my cute little Flowmaster a little bit, spread out the ears on my rear differential yoke, and exit the vehicle. To begin the repair, I'm gonna take off this output housing and we're gonna see what we've got. There we go. So you can see the broken stub in there, the output shaft, just totally hammered. Advanced Adapters sells a whole new assembly like this, which has a bigger output on it, so theoretically beefier. So I'm gonna send him a picture of this and tell him what I need. This is the drive shaft that we rescued out of the field after the race. It's broken. You can see it has the broken piece of the output shaft still in there. It takes a yoke with a nut on it, which establishes the preload on the tapered roller bearing that's in this output housing, but not when it's broken in half. But anyway, that gives you an idea about how all these parts go together and how they come apart and how they explode.
I'm honestly kind of bewildered because when I raced Freiberger, he had this blown 383 Jeep against basically a stock 360 Dodge Challenger, and somehow I beat him in every single event. But what we discovered here is this thing is not getting anywhere near wide open throttle. In fact, it's so stiff I can barely pull it off, and then it's just stuck. So I'm going to go through this linkage, try to find out where it's binding, and I should be able to free it up, get the leverage ratios right so that it gets full articulation. And hopefully, that's going to pick this thing up a bunch.
I'm still doing recon. I've got the transfer case output figured out. And next up, the shift lever. So I got this thing loose, mostly because it's broken. This is the part right here that is actually responsible for me nearly losing to Dirt Every Day because I was stuck in low range. And it's why I almost lost to Dulcich. This is the transfer case shifter, and it's been modified to fit the transmission swap, and it just broke, and I still have like a stub of it that I need to get out of the transfer case. And I think I'm gonna replace it with a aftermarket cable one. Oddly satisfying. Okay. All right, I need to take this apart.
I've got the linkage disconnected from the carburetors, and the thing is, they're still super stiff, especially trying to open it all the way to the secondary, and they're sticking right there, and they shouldn't. So what I'm gonna do is just pull them off, take them to the bench, see if I can figure out exactly what's going wrong, and hopefully get them fixed.
Here comes our transfer case fix. Remember this guy? It is the output of our Dana 20 transfer case, and it did snap in half right there. Now on the stock one right here, that shaft is 1 1/8 inches. This is a new unit that you can get from Advanced Adapters, which is the same company that makes Atlas transfer cases and adapters to put basically any transmission on any transfer case or any engine. So they make this output that has a 1 3/8 inch shaft, so it's a 1/4 inch bigger. It's got a different spline count on the back also. The only real downside to it is that it is 1.5 inches longer than the stock one. So you are gonna have to get a different drive shaft for that reason. But the beef is absolutely worth it. Assembling it is super simple. It's got 2 tapered roller bearings in it and a shaft that runs through it. All you have to do is pound a seal in it, make sure that you've got your assembly in the right order with a little shim in there to adjust the end play. Stick the shaft in and oil it all up, and then just ramrod the nut on the flange of your choice. You can get all sorts of different flanges for it. Simple as that. All right, let's go slam this thing in the Jeep and have it be fixed. Just want to make sure the splines match and everything's happy, and I might have to take the mufflers off to do it. Yep, mufflers are in my way. Okay, I guess I'm hacksawing the mufflers off this thing so that I can install this. And bye-bye.
I'm going to fix a little bit of a linkage problem, and the problem here is the accelerator pump arm hits the carburetor adapter, and that's preventing it from getting wide open throttle. I've already marked the location of the cut, so all I have to do is give it a quick zip for clearance with the carbide burr, and that'll fit perfectly.
I'm ready for the final installation on the Advanced Adapter's heavy-duty output. I've got some grease on the splines here and in there just so they slip together well. Also on this OD, which is a pretty tight fit to the case. I've got RTV on the sealing surface. The Advanced Adapters unit uses RTV, not a gasket. And the other thing that's going to make this sort of entertaining is I've got to put this nut into this groove and get it up in there on that stud, all at the same time as putting this in to the gear. So it's gonna be a little bit of a puzzle, but probably not too bad. And thread it. Okay, I got my transfer case doohickey in. Now I'm looking at my drive shaft scenario, and 13.25 inches. That is bad. So that's between the surface of this companion flange and the center line of this U-joint. And in that distance, I've got to fit a companion flange bracket, a CV joint, and a slip-in spline all in there. I'm just not sure it's even possible. That is very ungood. All right, we'll have to see what we can do.
Another problem I discovered when I was working on this carburetor adapter for the blower is the center bolts did not have enough thread engagement for my liking. So what I'm doing instead is I'm taking a more common countersunk Allen bolt, which means I'm going to have to countersink this plate so that the bolt fits in flush. Okay, that looks good. I'm ready to bolt the adapter in place now. One of the problems here was the carburetor linkage was a complete mess. It didn't give us wide open throttle, and in fact, it was really binding up. So I went through, readjusted everything, got it super dialed in. So now I've got wide open throttle and the linkage doesn't stick. I'm gonna move on to something else, maybe more linkage on the transfer case.
Let me remind you what we got going on here. The Dana 20 has a really awkward shifter arrangement on it in this thing. There is a hole in the case, and a tube slips into that hole and is retained by a couple of bolts. The tube sticks out about that far and is the mount for the shifter. Well, that completely fell apart on me, which was a huge part of my problem in a couple of prior episodes. Now I'm trying to take it apart to put a new shifter in it, and that little stub right there of tube that needs to come out of this hole in the case is rusted in, and it's a nightmare. I don't know how I'm gonna get this thing out, but it's gonna start with fire. I'm gonna try and heat the housing so that it expands so that it breaks that rust seal. Will it heat it enough? It's catching some grease on fire now. Expand with heat. Okay, I'm gonna hope that's gnarly enough. I'm not getting any power into this thing. Hey, Steve?
Yeah.
Can you please take over hammering while I'm holding?
Sure. Ready?
Yep. Missed.
Oh, my nose.
Okay, stop. That's not doing anything. You can't get any power onto it.
No. That's weird. No, I did.
Turning it so the rust is broken. freely turning. I mean, it's
Yeah, I'm going to try
stiff.
prying it out. I'm going to try to wedge the screwdriver in there. Once it's spun, I mean, it's...
Yes.
All right, now I can get my grip on it.
Yeah, there you go. It's out. Winning!
When it puts up a fight, it's simply a matter of the correct toolage.
All right, we got this doohickey out of the transfer case. It has been modified in the past for a different kind of shifter and booger welded even worse than I would have done. This is about how long it should have been. And so this is the piece that I'm going to be fabricating our new shifter out of. It's going to stick into the transfer case about that far and stick out about that far. Now imagine the transfer case underneath the Jeep. It has two sticks coming out of it that are the high and low, in and out, front and rear shifters, and they go like this. Okay, so what I need is a couple of levers like this mounted to a tab that I will make off of this thing that picks up a bolt right here, and then these will go to those two in and out sticks right here so that when I do this, they will shift. So that's everything that's gonna need to be fabricated. I'll get this thing in, drill a couple holes so it'll mount in there, build a big tab up off here that is pretty beefy, figure out how to mount these two levers through there, then figure out how to get the levers onto those two sticks that come out of the transfer case. It's gonna be quite a bit. That's gonna be a wrap on the transfer case shifter situation. They work good. Ugh. All right, transfer case done, shifter done, linkage done. But right now we're handling something that people have complained about ever since we introduced the BJ5 and installed this engine, and that is we got a 383 small block Chevy with a 671 supercharger on it and stock exhaust manifolds, which is stupid. So we're gonna attempt to fix that. I got some fender well headers for it, and I'm not convinced that they're gonna fit, but we're gonna give it a shot. Got it. Next up, headers. This is also an advanced adapters unit, just like the thingy on the transfer case. We're gonna see if it fits. I think we're gonna pull the driver's side fender off of here because the biggest obstacle is the steering column. So if this side doesn't fit, we don't need to even worry about the other side. The Jeep Universal, so easy to work on. All right, break the news, Stevie baby.
Oh no, I can't bear to do it.
You cannot bear to do it.
No.
Okay, let's see.
You know how devastated I'm going to be when this doesn't fit.
Oh, I don't think it fits. Do you have to take the steering column off? It won't fit between the clutch linkage and the column. See, that's trapped right there.
Angle it in there, Freiberger.
I'm trying. We gotta take the column off.
It's hitting the motor mount bracket.
Yeah, it's just pinched between the motor mount bracket and the column. If we take the column off, we can get it in, then put the column back on.
Why does it look like it's not going to be even close?
I don't know, but we gotta try. I think it fits. Oh, there's no possibility this is gonna fit, Dulcich.
That's what it looked like.
Yeah, no possibility that works. Yeah, it's fully ramming into the whole clutch linkage bracket, and once that's out of the way, you got this whole body mount that is gonna have to basically come off. There's no amount of tube bashing that's gonna solve that.
No.
Good thing I cut the mufflers off.
Yeah.
Well, we're officially not gonna have headers on this thing, at least not these headers. These probably fit a CJ2A or something, but they're just not working on the 5. I don't know what to do.
Is it possible to disappoint me more, Freiberger?
Probably. Okay, Steve, ready for the headers that I overnighted from Summit?
Reveal that header, David.
Whoosh!
Ta-da! Oh, wow.
Look at that.
Demolition Derby style.
Yep. I hate to admit it, but I pre-fit this on the Jeep, and it's gonna work.
Oh, yeah. Well, those are guaranteed to fit anything.
Yeah.
Straight up.
This is actually called like an upswept header, a demolition derby header, sometimes a tractor pulling header. It's from a company called Schoenfeld. These are dirt cheap. At Summit Racing, it was like 150 bucks or something like that. And obviously guaranteed to fit the Jeep, even though it's gonna be loud. So I got the kind that doesn't have a collector, like all 4 tubes are not gathered together into one, they're all individual. And I don't know what's gonna happen.
You know, the way that frames the whole blower and the look of this thing?
Yeah.
I have to commend you, Freiberger.
Thanks.
That's a good choice.
It's going to be so loud.
All right, I'll get you some bolts. You can get straight on to bolting that in. How's that?
You're right. Good idea. Boomeroony.
Man, that's a tight fit.
You having competency problems over there?
Yeah.
I need that moment of victory, and so we're going to fire this thing up before we put the fender back on, put a drive shaft in, and air filters.
I just want to hear these pipes. Look at you. You're better prepared than I am.
What?
It's really loud.
It's really loud.
Yeah.
Oh, all the paint is flying off of them.
I'm just personally thrilled with the exhaust system. So
The simplicity of it.
I apologize if I'm being too gleeful here.
You're a little glib.
I know. No, honestly, it's awesome. Just gonna put a spring on it, and looks like that's gonna do the job.
El Fendero. Cool. This is a miracle drive shaft. We went to Mike at Driveline Service of Fresno in California, and he was like, oh, is this for the BJ5? I remember when you guys chucked the drive shaft out of it. So he was able to make a 13.25-inch drive shaft, which is super dinky. And it's got the bracket that's gonna bolt to our companion flange, a CV joint, which I'll explain, a slip yoke, and then of course, the U-joint that goes to the rear end. This is really not enough travel for your typical 4x4. If this thing had a lot of spring articulation, it would droop the rear end and probably fall apart. We're gonna hope that doesn't happen with this thing. So what's a CV joint all about? The thing is, normally when you set up a rear drive shaft, you want the transmission or the transfer case and the pinion to have equal and opposite angles on the U-joint so that they operate correctly. The problem is, on the Jeep, they're so far apart that that angle is too steep. And if you actually drooped the rear end, it would get even worse. So what we do is use a CV joint, also called a double cardan joint, and it has got two U-joints in it. So here, the equal and opposite angle is in that double cardan joint itself, so it'll turn smoothly. When you've got a CV joint in your rear drive shaft, you want to take the pinion and point it straight to the output on the transfer case. So this thing is gonna go in here like this, CV like that, and it's gonna be home free. Okay, Steve. No more two-piece drive shaft. It's in there. It's highly questionable about binding and collapsing too much and extending too much, but it's there.
My level of concern is Freiberger.
Really? Full Freiberger?
Yeah, very low.
Great.
Yeah.
I say let's head straight to the sand wash.
Well, this thing's completely road ready, or off-road ready, to correct myself.
Okay, let's push this junk out.
Let's go. Oh, man.
Here we are at the secret test facility for the BJ5.
Yeah.
Let's say this is an 84-inch wheelbase. What's your guesstimate on power on this turd?
If it's not making high fives, I think we did something wrong.
Yeah, totally agreeing. Let's say 550, 575, something like that. So all we've done with all of our repair work is moved the destruction downstream. We're gonna break either a drive shaft or an axle.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
I can assure you of one thing. This thing will survive this whole day without breaking.
Fantastic.
Yeah, that's the way I feel. My concern level for breakage is nil.
All right, we're in the sand wash, and I guess we're gonna do some blasting around, see how this thing does.
Don't break it right away.
I know. It's really strange to me that it doesn't want to pull third.
I was gonna say there's a big ratio jump between second and third.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, first is too low, second is okay, third it just begins to bog.
I think with his secret's gonna be going in high range and then using first and second gear.
That's what we're doing right now.
Oh, Freiberger.
What?
Put it in low range.
I thought you said the secret is high range.
Not in this.
The problem is low range is four-wheel drive only. I guess we could unlock the front hubs.
Are you in four-wheel drive?
No.
Ah, I want the full 4x4 action.
No, that's wrong. If you can get there in two-wheel drive, you get there in two-wheel drive.
No.
Yeah, it's more fun.
Okay.
That's how you get the slip and slide action.
You can't do low range in two-wheel drive.
We could unlock the front hubs.
Oh, yeah, we could do that.
Go ahead. It's always the passenger's job to do the hubs. It's a given. Okay, Steve's gonna unlock the front hubs, which means I can put it in low range, but it'll only be two-wheel drive, so maybe it'll be a little bit better.
Yeah, that's way better gear ratio.
What is that? There's a tire swing.
We found a problem, and the spark plug wires were hitting the headers because they're not tied off, and we don't have a zip tie. But I actually found some flax growing right here on the riverbank. It's like nature's gift because it has a lot of purposes, including tying stuff off. Now, I've woven this into a perfect tie, and I'm just going to tie those wires right onto the lower bracket here. There we go. Fixed.
Steve fixed those spark plug wires, which is awesome. But then
that's the starter engaging.
Won't crank. You want to get a rock and hit the starter?
Well, you're not going to fix the starter with a worthless piece of flax.
Yeah, you need rock.
Yeah. Give me one of your extra keys, and I'll try just bridging across the solenoid. Make sure you're not in gear. I wouldn't want you to take off.
It is full Switzerland.
Okay. You have the ignition switch on?
It is. He's going to arc across the terminals on the starter with the key, which... Whoa. There you go. Ready?
Yeah.
Great. It had a dead spot in the starter. We could have hit it with a rock, too. Yeah. Unbuckling for safety.
Freiberger, you always go for the extra degree of difficulty, two-wheel drive.
I know, it was fun. And rev limiter, did you hear that?
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty good.
They're bouncing off the rev limiter, but the 383 is performing flawlessly.
You know, I like to learn something from every episode, and here's what I've learned from our 383.
Okay.
You know how people say if you think about performance, an engine is only really an air pump?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
This one's a water
pump. It was.
Did you see how the water was blasting out?
Yeah.
How does it survive that? Because the water blasted for like a good 15 seconds after the river crossings.
Oh, yeah. It was like a water pump.
What do you think of the overall experience of the BJ5?
It's flawless, just as I predicted at the onset here. It's bulletproof.
Hasn't broken anything yet.
No.
Kind of hard to believe. I think it's actually because we're in sand and soft, you know, goopy, moldy water and stuff like that.
Yeah, I know, but you're putting some horsepower through these boggers, kicking up those rooster tails.
Yeah, and it doesn't even really wheel hop, so I'm pretty happy. The ride quality is pretty stiff, as to be expected with the early, I think, Rancho under axle leaf spring lift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the exhaust pipes are a win. Having a supercharged engine and a short wheelbase Jeep's a win. The boggers are a win. The power steering's a win.
I'm going to say that my experience right now with the BJ5 is above and beyond what I expected when we started the episode. How about you?
I forgot about one more gigantic win.
Huh.
All the water going through the radiator, thing's been ice cold all afternoon.
That's true.
Right?
Water turns out to be a great coolant.
Yeah, to the Tonket, right?
Well, what do you want to do? Want to try and break it?
No, it's unbreakable. It's like the Titanic. Oh, wait a minute.
We're going to hit it hard. Finally, the BJ5 proves to be everything that I had hoped for. It's a cartoon, and it shreds. But unfortunately, it did not emerge completely unscathed. We arrived with a welded diff. We're leaving with an open diff. Yes, it broke the right rear axle. What can you do?
Oh, well.
Dana 44.
I don't consider that a failure.
Well, the biggest failure about it is that we now have to actually rescue the production crew who managed to get their truck stuck like 3 times today. And this is by far the worst of it. I'm not sure that we're gonna do anything but spin our own tires, but we're gonna give it a shot. Say hi, Taylor. That's our producer.
Yeah.
He's the responsible adult on set. Okay, ready for this?
If only there was something we could do about these headers. They just didn't fit.
It's okay, Steve.
Really?
Because I have arrived with a solution that you will not believe.
What do you have, David?
Oh, man, we're going to be able to auction this thing and save the shop almost immediately when I reveal.
Oh, my goodness! They go straight up!
I don't know if I can get this done in time.
Well, you'd better, or you're fired!